298 days. That's how long Caitlin Clark had to wait before stepping back onto a real WNBA court. Not another preseason tune-up, and not the FIBA qualifying games in Puerto Rico where she dominated and earned MVP honors. This was the moment Indiana Fever fans had been counting down to, a true regular season return in front of a packed home crowd ready to explode the second she walked onto the floor. And in her highly anticipated matchup against Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings, history unfolded right before everyone's eyes. By the end of the night, 8 different WNBA records had been shattered in a single game, something the league had never witnessed before. Even though Indiana came up just short on the scoreboard, Caitlin Clark delivered a loud message to the rest of the WNBA. She's officially back, and the league has been put on notice. Show Caitlin some love in the comments and type, "Welcome back, CC Record Breaker."
For Caitlin Clark, starts off the third quarter with the 3, then comes down again off the offensive rebound. Deep 3, involved her teammates with pretty dimes once she got inside the paint, and then in transition showed a little of her magic as well. Just felt so different here in the third quarter. The energy in the building sparked by Caitlin Clark.
Before tip-off, Caitlin Clark told the media she felt more excited than anxious about finally being back on the court, and she genuinely believed it. But during warm-ups, fans and reporters watching closely could see subtle signs that the moment was hitting her harder than she let on. Her hands weren't completely calm during her pre-game routine, revealing a different story beneath the confidence. That contrast between her words and her body language showed just how much emotion, pressure, and effort went into reaching this comeback moment.
Hey, Caitlin, your fans obviously are waiting for this moment as much as you have been. What do you think this means to them, and how important is it for you to be back, for them, and they've been waiting since July 15th as well? Thanks.
I mean, as excited as they are, I'm probably way more excited. That's how much I love this game, how much I missed it. And, obviously I've played in the USA basketball stuff, and I've played in the preseason games, but it's a little different when you get to do it for real. And just really thankful more than anything.
The 2025 WNBA season forced Caitlin Clark to endure one of the toughest stretches of her career. The groin injury that sidelined her didn't just cost her a handful of games, it wiped out her entire season. Night after night, she had to watch Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and the rest of the Indiana Fever battle without her, while she stood on the sidelines wishing she could help. Instead of leading the action on the court, she became the loudest supporter in the arena, cheering her teammates on while dealing with the frustration of being unable to play. Everything finally started to change in March 2026 when Clark returned to competitive basketball with Team USA during the FIBA qualifying tournament in Puerto Rico. And she didn't just return, she took over. Her performance was so impressive that she earned tournament MVP honors, reminding everyone exactly what kind of player she still was. So when opening night finally arrived, there were no more questions about whether she could compete at an elite level again. She had already answered.
Obviously last year was a mental grind more than anything. It was it's hard when you put in so much time in the off season and it doesn't really go how you want it to, and that's basketball, that's life, and you got to find a way to respond. And I feel like I've tried to approach every part of adversity in the best way that I can, but it makes me a little emotional that I get to put on my jersey tonight and I get to go play. So more than anything, my goal is just to have fun, enjoy the crowd, enjoy the excitement around this moment, and remind myself I'm prepared as well.
But Caitlin Clark made it clear that what happened in Puerto Rico couldn't compare to returning to Indianapolis. She openly admitted there's a completely different energy that comes with playing for the Indiana Fever in front of the home crowd. Representing Team USA was special, but stepping back onto the court at Gainbridge Fieldhouse brought out emotions that no international tournament could recreate. Clark even explained that while she fully supported her teammates during her time away, cheering harder than anyone from the sidelines, it never truly replaced being out there with them, and she wasn't trying to be emotional for attention. She was simply acknowledging how meaningful this moment really was. After 298 days of rehab, recovery, and non-stop injury speculation, coming back for a real WNBA game in front of fans who waited every step of the way carried a completely different level of pressure and excitement. She also admitted she felt nervous again, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. But instead of avoiding that feeling, she embraced it. Clark told reporters she actually missed having butterflies before a game, because to her, that feeling means the moment matters. And when a player who has already hit clutch shots on massive stages says she feels those nerves again, people listen. Even before tip-off, Gainbridge Fieldhouse Fieldhouse was buzzing with anticipation. The arena already felt alive, but when Clark's name was announced during introductions, the crowd erupted louder than it had all night. After nearly 300 days of waiting, Fever fans turned a regular season opener into a full-scale event.
There's just like a different juice inside of your body when you're putting on your uniform and you're mentally locked in to go and play a basketball game. Obviously, like, I was excited for my teammates last year 100%, and I was their biggest fan, but it's not the same. It just isn't, and I think it's more mentally, like, you're mentally preparing, you're mentally locked in, and I missed having the butterflies in my stomach before a game. Like, I love that, and that means you're ready.
The opening half didn't unfold the way anyone expected. Caitlin Clark was still adjusting to the pace, trying to rediscover her rhythm after such a long layoff. The timing felt a little off. The turnovers started to stack up, and for stretches, you could clearly see the rust. Dallas's defense also made sure nothing came easy, forcing her to earn every single touch and every inch of space on the floor. But everything shifted in the third quarter. Clark caught the ball near the elbow, spun away from her defender in one smooth motion, and then delivered a no-look behind-the-back pass to Maddie Siegrist in stride. The arena instantly exploded. That wasn't something drawn up on a clipboard or perfected in drills. It was instinct, pure court vision. And in that one moment, it was obvious her creativity and awareness hadn't faded at all during those 298 days away. Later in the game, concern briefly spread when Clark headed to the tunnel twice, and fans online immediately started fearing another groin issue given her long injury history in 2025. After the game, Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White clarified the situation, explaining those trips were simply for routine back maintenance as part of managing her body in real time during her return to full-speed competition. Clark herself confirmed she felt fine and said her body was responding well overall.
Caitlin, to your point on feeling good, you made a couple of quick trips to the locker room. Was there a reason for that?
Sorry, who's talking? Oh, my bad. Just getting my back adjusted. It gets out of line pretty quickly, so just getting my back put back in place a little bit. But other than that, feel great.
Caitlin Clark ended the night with 20 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds, along with 5 turnovers. And that stat line tells the story of a true return to action. Not flawless, but still impactful in every sense. The kind of performance that shows rhythm is coming back, even if it isn't fully sharp yet. While Clark was working through early game rust, Kelsey Mitchell made sure the Indiana Fever weren't going quietly. Mitchell exploded for 30 points in the season opener, a performance that already sounds impressive on its own, but it became even bigger once you realize it set a new franchise record for the most points ever scored in a season opener. A mark that had stood untouched for years was suddenly erased in a single night, and Mitchell made it look effortless.
Right away, you see Dallas in man-to-man. Paige Bueckers on Caitlin Clark. Keep an eye on that one.
Here's Kelsey Mitchell. Jittering, taking a long two and burying it. Mitchell, third in the league in scoring a season ago.
What made Kelsey Mitchell's performance so significant wasn't just the scoring total, it was the way she built it. She was sharp, aggressive, and constant, putting pressure on the defense in steady waves from the very beginning of the game. Right when Indiana needed someone to stabilize things, especially while Caitlin Clark was still shaking off nearly 300 days away from real competition, Mitchell stepped into that role immediately. There was no waiting, no hesitation, no easing into the moment. She got to work early and kept the Fever afloat while Clark found her rhythm. On a night where your franchise centerpiece is still rediscovering timing and pace, someone has to set the tone. Mitchell didn't just accept that responsibility, she owned it from the opening tip.
7-point lead for Dallas. Mitchell, she got it. Huge three for Kelsey Mitchell.
Aaliyah Boston was operating on a completely different level. She logged just 26 minutes on the floor, but in that short span, she made a massive impact. Boston finished with 23 points and 4 rebounds, consistently beating the Dallas Wings down the floor and exploiting mismatches they had no answer for. Even early in the season, her name was already starting to surface in broader WNBA discussions, and this performance only strengthened that momentum. Watching her dominate that efficiently against Dallas made it even clearer why people are taking notice so quickly. Scoring 23 points in only 26 minutes while constantly creating pressure in transition is the kind of production that forces coaching staffs to go back, study the tape, and figure out what went wrong. So when you put it all together, Caitlin Clark finishing with 20, Kelsey Mitchell dropping 30, and Aaliyah Boston adding 23 points, Indiana found itself in truly historic company. All three players scoring 20 or more in the same game made them just the third trio in WNBA history to accomplish that feat in a season opener. Only the third time it has ever happened in the entire league, and the first time ever for the Indiana Fever. Well, another milestone added to the night. That's not the kind of stat that comes from coincidence or individual hot streaks. It takes three players all hitting their stride at the exact same time, locked in and feeding off each other's energy. And on this night, that's exactly what Indiana had from start to finish.
Boston the steal. Here comes Boston. Mitchell the shovel. Timpson, it's tied.
Coming off the bench, sophomore Michaela Timpson delivered one of the most quietly valuable performances of the night. She finished 5 of 6 from the field for 11 points in just 19 minutes, making every opportunity count. With Monique Billings unavailable, Indiana needed someone from the second unit to hold things together and prevent the bench rotation from becoming a weakness. Timpson stepped right into that responsibility and handled it without hesitation. For a young player in her season opener, shooting 5 of 6 in a packed arena buzzing with Caitlin Clark's return isn't a small task, but she never looked overwhelmed. Instead, she stayed composed, played within herself, and delivered exactly what her team needed when it mattered. Lexi Hull returned to the lineup after dealing with hamstring tightness, and although her minutes were limited, simply having her back on the floor already changes things for Indiana's rotation moving forward. When Hull is fully healthy and engaged, she adds a defensive flexibility that helps relieve pressure from the team's main scoring trio. That kind of impact doesn't always show up in the box score, but it absolutely matters. Her return was still something worth noting, even with a quiet statistical night. When you zoom out, everything combined helped Indiana set a new franchise record for the highest scoring season opener in Fever history, especially. Impressive considering they were still finding their rhythm early on. Even more historic, both teams finishing above 100 points made this the first season. Opener in WNBA history where each side reached triple digits. That's a milestone. That had never happened before on opening night in the league.
Caitlin Clark heating up after hitting the first three of the second half, and then here stepping in. There's the fist bump you were talking about.
Dallas finished the night shooting an incredible 59% from the field and 52% from beyond the arc. And that's really the stat that tells the story behind the 107-104 final score. It wasn't Indiana's offense that failed them, because they clearly showed they could score. The issue was on the defensive end, where the Wings consistently found open looks and made them pay all game long. When the buzzer finally sounded, the stat crew was still piecing everything together. And once the full breakdown was in, it became clear just how historic the night had been. 8 different WNBA records were broken in a single game. It's the kind of outcome that almost feels unreal until you actually see it all written out in front of you. Start with the 1,000 point mark, because that milestone alone carried 2 different records with it. Caitlin Clark became the fastest point guard in WNBA history to reach 1,000 career points, getting there in just 54 games. On top of that, she's also the 6th fastest player overall in league history to hit that number, no matter the position. That means she isn't only reshaping what's possible for point guards, she's already climbing into elite territory across the entire history of the league. At this stage of her career, she's in a very exclusive group of players who have reached that level of production this quickly.
Here comes Clark, just ended an 8-0 Dallas run. Boston, the deep seal, and the finish.
The first 2 records already stand out on their own, but the third one really shows. what Caitlin Clark's trajectory looks like right now. Getting to 1,000 points is impressive, but pairing that with 250 rebounds and 250 assists takes things to another level entirely. That kind of all-around production demands scoring, playmaking, and rebounding at a pace most guards in the league simply don't reach. Clark managed all of it in just 54 games. In the process, she also broke a mark previously held by Diana Taurasi, who reached that same statistical combination in 62 games. That's 8 more games than Clark needed while competing in a league where Taurasi is widely regarded as one of the greatest to ever do it. The 4th record isn't tied to a single milestone, but to sustained consistency, and it may end up being the most revealing of all. Clark now owns the most games in WNBA history with at least 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, and she's reached that mark faster than anyone else ever has. This isn't about a one-time breakout performance or a handful of standout nights. It's about producing at that level over and over again, at a pace the league has never seen before. And with every game she plays, she keeps widening a gap that's already becoming difficult to close.
Clark the rebound, pushing pace for Indiana. Clark trying to go all the way in, reverses it home.
Records 5 through 8 all came on the team side of things. Kelsey Mitchell's 3-0 point performance set a new Indiana Fever record for scoring in a season opener. Then there was the combined effort of Caitlin Clark, Mitchell, and Aaliyah. Boston, who became just the 3rd trio in WNBA history to each score 20 or more points in an opening game, and the first trio ever to do it in Fever history. On top of that, Indiana set a new franchise high for total points in a season opener. And as if that wasn't enough, both teams together made history as well, becoming the first opening night matchup in WNBA history where each side scored 100 or more points, ending in a 107-104 finish. Clark herself summed up the pace best, saying it felt like no one could breathe. And if you actually go back and watch the game, that description doesn't feel like an exaggeration at all. It feels accurate.
I mean, I think early in the first quarter and second quarter, no one could breathe, so no one could talk with the pace we were playing at. And also, like, just the nerves and the excitement of the game. I'm not going to speak for Kels, but it was for them, too. Jose was yelling at them to keep running. I'm like, Jose, I don't know if either of us can keep running, but...
I was like...
But, no, I mean, that's the pace you want to play with.
That final record deserves a closer look, because the Dallas Wings weren't just there to witness Indiana's historic night, they were a major part of it. Under head coach Jose Fernandez, Dallas brought in a reshaped roster and a system built around spacing, constant ball movement, and versatile positional reads. And they executed it well enough to come away with a win while also contributing to a game that produced a league-first offensive explosion. Out of the 8 records set, 4 belonged to Caitlin Clark individually, highlighting just how rapidly she stacks production at this level. 3 came from the Indiana Fever as a team, showing how much their offensive ceiling has expanded, and 1 was a league-wide first that required both teams to push each other into uncharted territory. After the game, Clark put it simply, "Our offense is obviously not the issue. We're perfectly fine on offense." And that assessment holds up. Indiana's scoring isn't the problem right now. The records prove the talent is real and the production is there. But even with all of that history made, it was still Dallas who left Gamebridge. Fieldhouse with the win.
Caitlin, your first game back, how do you feel physically and how would you evaluate this first day?
Yeah, I feel good. Started off a little slow, I think. Just the anxiety of the first game, trying to work through that. But overall, I felt good, felt fast out there. Felt like I was literally a couple buckets away from putting together a really, really good game and helping us win. But our offense is obviously not the issue. We're perfectly fine on offense, and there's still so many things we can do better on that end of the floor. But, you got to give Dallas credit. They're really good.
The Fever ended up on the losing side, and it's important to be direct about that. instead of letting the 8 records overshadow what actually happened on the floor. Because the same issues that caused this loss are the ones that will keep showing up unless something changes. Dallas finished shooting 59% from the field and 52% from three-point range, and those kinds of numbers don't happen by chance. The Wings consistently moved the ball within their spacing-heavy system, stayed disciplined in their execution, and repeatedly punished Indiana in transition whenever the defense was even a step late. Every slow rotation turned into another easy look. Hitting 12 threes on just 23 attempts isn't just a hot shooting night, it's the result of clean, repeatable opportunities being created over and over again because the defense kept allowing the same gaps to appear.
Today, preseason was a big talk from your coach in the preseason. What happened on that end of the floor to give up such a high number tonight?
I think it comes down a little bit of personnel, knowing who you guard, knowing how you got to guard them. I think that's one issue of which we have to get better at. But I think collectively, just a little bit more pride, and taking it serious. Not that we weren't. It's just, when we play that good defense down the stretch of possessions, get the rebound. Don't give them another chance to really get it back. And I think that shot us in the foot a little bit. And then when you let certain players get going, it's hard to stop them. And so I think our personnel defense could be a little bit better.
Stephanie White was candid after the game, making it clear that Indiana can't keep expecting to win by simply trying to outscore everyone. She pointed to the need for far better defensive structure, discipline, and overall cohesion. And that's a fair assessment. Having Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell on the same roster gives Indiana one of the most dangerous offensive cores in the league, but it doesn't automatically solve what's happening on the defensive end, even with all three. Combining for 73 points, the Fever still came up short, and that alone says a lot about the supporting pieces around them when the bench struggles to contribute and the defense continues to give up clean looks. 3 high-scoring performances aren't always enough to overcome a well-executed opponent. Clark finished 7 of 1-8 from the field and 2 of 9 from deep, but what stands out even more are the 5 offensive fouls among her turnovers. 3 of those were live ball. Mistakes that immediately turned into easy points for Dallas on the other end. Afterward, Clark said she felt just a couple of baskets away from really putting together a strong game and helping Indiana win, and that's probably true in terms of scoring impact. But the offensive fouls are the kind of correctable mistakes that simply can't keep piling up if Indiana wants to turn these close games into wins.
Really the only quarter we put together was the third. I guess in the fourth we were fouling, so but figured it out a little bit there in the third. We just got to be able to do that a little more consistently, but it was a great test. It was a great game. Our locker room was positive afterwards, so we're not going to hang our heads. We're going to move forward. A lot to be proud of, and a lot to learn from too. So it was only 1 of 44. We got a long ways to go.
Monique Billings being out was felt on both sides of the floor, and not just as a one-game absence. When she's not available, Indiana immediately loses a layer of physicality and defensive rebounding that helps stabilize their entire structure. Without her, the margin for defensive mistakes gets much smaller, much faster. Dallas clearly understood that advantage. Odyssey Sims, Jessica Shepard, and Alana Smith all played key roles in keeping the ball moving and spacing the floor in a way that prevented Indiana from collapsing onto any single threat. As a result, Wings consistently found the open player, moved with purpose, and kept the fever. Defense reacting instead of dictating, especially alongside an efficient scoring night from Paige Bueckers. This Indiana roster is still very much player-driven, which means the chemistry between Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell has to develop over time. On the defensive end, they've already shown strong instincts together in pick-and-roll situations and in transition offense, but defensive communication, switching decisions, and recognizing off-ball movement require real in-game repetition. Those are things that don't click instantly. They build over time through live action. So it wasn't surprising that the season opener came with some rough edges that was always part of the reality, and in this game, those growing pains showed up. Clearly.
But I'm excited about where our group is going. Like I told CC and AB, I'm gonna rock and roll with them for as long as we're gonna do this. I'm rocking and rolling, and I think we're gonna keep getting better. I think the chemistry is there. I think the atmosphere and the fans. I don't know how much they realize. Yeah, they really. They keep us in the game, especially when it's bad. Yeah. When it's bad, especially, and so we piggyback off our fans in a lot of situations. Our environment is what makes me want to play hard. It makes her want to play hard, and so we got a lot of good things going. When you lose, you take it on the chin and you respect your opponent, but you come back more powerful.
None of that takes away from the records or the offensive firepower Indiana showed. But it does bring the real focus into view for the 2026 season. Stephanie White now has the challenge of building a true defensive identity around 3 elite scorers and doing it quickly enough to hold up when the stakes rise in the playoffs. Caitlin Clark said it best after the game. Our offense is obviously not the issue. We're perfectly fine on offense, and that's accurate. Indiana's scoring isn't the problem right now, but despite all the historic numbers and standout performances, the Fever still left Gainbridge Fieldhouse with a loss after giving up 107 points. That alone highlights the gap they still need to close if they want to be taken seriously as a championship contender.